Welcome to Indian Society of Toxicology official YouTube channel. Today we are discussing about a salicylate toxicity case. Can we start?
Yes, sir. 55-year-old male patient walked into the ER with history of ingestion of 16 tablets of ecospirin 75 mg. On initial 10-second assessment, patient
Can you tell the difference between ecospirin and normal aspirin?
Normal aspirin and ecospirin is not end-coated. So
Ecospirin is end-coated.
Ecospirin is end-coated and slow release will be there in the stomach.
So even if you take this much tablet, immediate action may not be there in a normal person, but actions will slowly start. It takes some time.
Okay.
That's one way it is an advantage. It will not cause gastric problem. In toxicology, it is a disadvantage. Patient may not have symptoms initially, but patient eventually develop all the clinical findings.
Okay. So initial 10-second assessment, patient was conscious, oriented and obeying to my comments. On primary assessment, airway, his airway appears patent. He is talking in one full sentence. There is no pooling of secretions, no gurgling or no grunting sounds. Breathing, his respiratory rate was 17 per minute with a saturation of 100%. Bilateral air entry was equal. He was not tachypnic.
Is the rate important here, respiratory rate?
Yes, sir. In the first phase of salicylic poisoning, patient will be having respiratory alkalosis. Patient will be having hyperventilation because the aspirin will stimulate the respiratory center and hyperventilation will be there. So in this patient that was not there. Moving on to circulation, his capillary refill time was less than 3 seconds. His BP was 120/80 with a map of 93. His heart rate was 90 per minute. And all peripheral pulses were felt equally and bilaterally. There was no active bleeding. Disability, his Glasgow Coma scale was E4, V5, M6 with pupils 2 millimeters bilaterally equal reactive. Exposure, his temperature was 98 degree Fahrenheit with a GRBS of 132 and hypothermia was prevented by blanket. Adjuncts to primary survey, an acid-base blood gas analysis was done. That time his pH was 7.386, PCO2 of 41 and bicarbonate of 24 and lactate was 1 and potassium was 3.3, sir. So at this point of time there is no major acid-base abnormalities. His GRBS was 1.
What are the ABG abnormalities you observe in salicylate toxicity depending on the time?
Initially, sir, because this aspirin will stimulate the respiratory center, patient will be having a respiratory alkalosis. After some time, the patient will be having a metabolic acidosis. It can be because of 3 reasons. It can be because the aspirin will inhibit the oxidative phosphorylation, so and it will inhibit the Krebs cycle, and so a lactic acidosis will be there. Then in the kidney, because in the kidney metabolic acidosis will be there, and ketoacidosis will be there because of lipolysis. Then so it will patient will go for a metabolic acidosis, and so to compensate that, initially the patient will be having this respiratory alkalosis, later on metabolic acidosis, and progressively patient will go for a respiratory acidosis.
Respiratory acidosis is due to?
Because of the progression of the acidity.
It is because of fatigue. Patient will have rapid breathing for some time. Respiratory muscles will get fatigued and he will slowly go to hyperventilation. That produces respiratory acidosis. Ultimately, he'll develop both acidosis, metabolic acidosis with respiratory acidosis, then patient slowly sinks down.
Initially, rarely patient can have a metabolic alkalosis secondary to vomiting and
Okay.
So metabolic acidosis, you said, can you specify what type of acidosis?
Lactic acidosis.
High anion gap metabolic acidosis. When you remember that salicylate is one of the most common reason for a high anion gap metabolic acidosis. So a high anion gap metabolic acidosis will not be an initial presentation, as you rightly said, initially to start with a metabolic respiratory alkalosis, slowly into a metabolic acidosis. Then you take an high anion gap metabolic acidosis. Then the next step will be the compensation. You will calculate the compensation using the Winter's formula. And if Winter's formula is seeing adequate compensation, you will see that there is only metabolic acidosis. If it is again elevated, you think that in terms of a respiratory acidosis. So these 3 things can happen simultaneously. And if, as you said, if there is a vomiting, it will proceed to metabolic alkalosis also.
Sir, it is said that sometimes there can be
this lactic acidosis, what is the type of lactic acidosis? if you remember, there are two types of lactic acid.
Type A and type B.
Type
Okay,
B,
what
sir.
type this is?
Type
Here type A is due to decreased perfusion.
Okay.
And type B is because of pathology at the cellular
Cellular level.
This
Here-
is because of
Type C.
type B, sir.
Type
So it's a very good cause for very major cause for type B
Type B
type of lactic
lactic
acid. So it's only theoretical aspect, but treatment wise almost it will be same. But here we have to reverse the pathology also. In hypoperfusion, if you improve the perfusion, it may improve. Here you have to reverse the pathology also.
Sir, it is said that normal anion gap metabolic acidosis can be there if the patient is taking acetazolamide along with
Okay.
it, or if the chloride is wrongly read
Okay.
as
Okay.
Most commonly remember high anion
High
gap,
anion
but
gap
a
metabolic.
rarest possibility normal anion gap can also be
So it
there.
is a very complicated arterial ABG disorder. This
Okay, sir.
this case. Okay.
So this patient was connected to cardiac monitors, and Riles tube was inserted, and gastric decontamination was done, and 50 grams of activated charcoal was given,
Okay.
and serum
When will you
electrolyte.
give activated charcoal in a case of poison?
Activated charcoal, ideally we should give within the 1 hour of presentation
Okay.
to prevent the absorption.
Correct.
It will absorb the
That is ideal. Ideal situation is 1 hour. That is any textbook you take. Ideal situation is explained, and it is 1 hour. Can we give activated charcoal extended? Means after 2 hours, like that can be given.
multi-dose activated charcoal can be given.
Okay.
Since this patient took ecospirin delayed release will be
Okay,
there.
okay.
So multi-dose activated charcoal, either we can give 25 grams second hourly, or 50 gram fourth hourly can be given.
Okay. So some drugs which are delayed release, they also can be given. And a massive dose of any drug, there also you can give extended this one. And some patients will have delayed emptying time, like in diabetes and all, autonomic neuropathy. There also you can give.
Okay.
But here there is another problem. This patient has got another problem. Can you explain that problem?
Post gastrectomy.
So he is a post gastrectomy patient. Is it a advantage or disadvantage?
For this patient, it is an advantage.
It is an
because
advantage.
the aspirin, majority of the aspirin will get absorbed rapidly in the stomach.
Okay.
For this patient, since he is a post gastrectomy, aspirin was not absorbed.
Okay. Okay. So it's an advantage for the patient here in this case.
And again, activated charcoal 1 gram can absorb around 550 milligram of aspirin.
Aspirin.
That is another major thing. So each tablet around you will have 325 milligram or 150. So you will usually give 50 grams. So 50 gram can absorb that much amount of aspirin also. So that is the other added.
Any other drug can produce salicylate toxicity?
Sir, mesalamine, which is used in IBD.
IBD.
Then oil of wintergreen.
Okay, that is applied for pain and all. Inflamed skin will absorb more salicylate.
Then sir, moving on to the ample history, patient is not having any allergies. Patient is on ecospirin 75 mg, cloplas 75 mg, and atorvastatin. Patient is a known case of coronary artery disease, triple vessel disease, for status for CABG in 2018, and he was diagnosed to have
So this patient, just a theoretical question, this patient is on aspirin for his coronary artery disease. He has taken overdose of aspirin. Can we stop this regular aspirin for 1 or 2 days? Because this patient will be admitted in your ICU. How do you tackle that situation?
We must monitor the salicylate levels, sir.
Okay.
Second hourly, and
But salicylate levels can nothing to do with your coronaries.
okay.
What is the action of salicylate or aspirin in coronaries?
Coronaries, it will prevent the
Aggregation of
aggregation
platelet.
of
How long the action will last in a normal patient with aspirin, 75 milligram or 150 milligram? How long it will prevent the?
3 to 5
It will
days.
normally it will prevent the aggregation 5 to 7 days. Okay, so even if you stop it for 1 or 2 days, nothing would happen. Okay, it is on all theoretical question, but even then this situation will come because patient is already on aspirin coronary artery disease. Whether to stop or not, that is very important. No need to stop. Next day onwards or next day onwards, you can restart the medicine. Nothing wrong in that. As far as patient is not having any clinical features, you can restart the medicine.
Again, the question arises: the patient is having any angiography already done, any stenting already placed,
Correct.
maybe a drug-eluting stent they have already placed. So that can be one of the reasons for aggravation of the thrombus also. So maybe a brief time we can hold on, and then we need to definitely think of restarting or some other modality of anticoagulation we need to keep in your mind. For this patient, I don't think he has been taken any angiogram or angioplasty, so there is no stent in situ. So there is, I think we are safe to stop for 2 to 3 days and then restart after that.
This patient was diagnosed triple vessel disease and they did a CABG.
Okay.
So again, the pathology is correct.
He was diagnosed to have a poorly differentiated adenocarcinoma stomach, for which complete total gastrectomy was done in 2018.
Okay.
Then events, last meal was previous day 9 p.m. Events, patient gives alleged history of ingestion of 16 tablets of Ecosprin 75 mg.
Ecosprin is normally coming as 150 milligram.
Okay, sir.
150 or 75 is there. Ecosprin routinely they take 150 milligram. So 16 milligram, 16 tablet means how much is the?
Total 12 grams.
So is it in toxic?
Fatal dose is 10 to 30.
Okay.
This patient took 12 grams.
Okay, so it is around, but there is an advantage. Patient does not have stomach here. Okay.
Following that, patient presented to the ED, but history-wise there is no history of any tinnitus, vomiting or any abdominal pain, no history of any delirium, lethargy or seizures.
Okay.
What
So
are
there
the
is a
clinical features?
Clinical features we can divide to mild, moderate and severe, sir. According to the dose, if the it can be divided according to the dose. 100 mg per kg, mild symptoms will be there. Moderate means 100 to 300 mg per kg, and severe means more than 300 mg per kg.
Okay.
So mild symptoms can be nausea, vomiting and mild dizziness will be there. Moderate symptoms, patient will be having hyperpyrexia, tinnitus, lethargy, drowsiness will be there, and in case of severe toxicity, patient can go for hallucination, pulmonary edema, seizures, coma, shock.
Okay. Routinely, which condition you use high dose of aspirin?
Rheumatic fever.
Rheumatic fever. Rheumatoid arthritis also some patients take, but rheumatic fever is a typical condition where you take high levels of aspirin, around 100 milligram per kg. We routinely give, but nowadays rheumatic fever is very rare, so the usage is coming down.
Then coming to the examination part, general examination, there was no pallor, icterus, cyanosis, clubbing, lymphadenopathy or edema. Head to foot examination, everything was normal for this patient. On examination, per abdomen
This
examination.
toxic dose you had told.
Exactly.
One important thing what we have to remember is somebody is on high levels of aspirin, like rheumatic fever, patient is taking 500 milligram TID or some high dose. In that patient, this much levels are not required. Patient is already on high dose of aspirin, continuously taking for 1 or 2 months. Suddenly you give some 5-6 tablet, patient can go to a toxic level. So cumulative effect you have to consider. Okay. Here the patient is not on that, but in a patient who is taking rheumatic fever prophylaxis, rheumatic fever treatment, there a small amount of overdose is enough to produce toxicity.
Then this patient, per abdomen examination, per abdomen inspection, there was a post-laparotomy scar was there. Otherwise, per abdomen was normal, no visible pulsations. Palpation, there was no guarding or rigidity, and auscultation bowel sounds were heard. On examination of the respiratory system, respiratory rate was 18 per minute, and there was no use of accessory muscles of respiration. Tracheopius central CABG scar was there on the chest, and auscultation, bilateral air entry was equal, no added sounds were there. On central nervous system examination, patient is conscious oriented, no delusions or hallucinations for this patient. Cranial nerve examination, specifically we have to look for the 8th cranial nerve, that was normal, sir.
Okay.
Then motor
8th
system.
cranial nerves means you have to look for nystagmus. That is a classical finding. Tinnitus patient will complain. Nystagmus is the one we have to look for.
Then central nervous system was normal, and cardiovascular system inspection was normal, and S1, S2 was heard normally.
Okay.
So in this patient we have position the patient in a comfortable position. Trials tube was inserted, and gastric samples were taken. Then activated charcoal 50 grams were given for this patient, and this patient was connected to cardiac monitors to look for any arrhythmias which can be developed. Then serial monitoring of the electrolytes were done. So electrolytes, his potassium was 3.3, but there were no ECG changes of hypokalemia. We're expecting a hypokalemia because of the respiratory alkalosis which can be there initially, and in case of vomiting and all, there can be hypokalemia.
Okay, should we treat this potassium?
Since he's asymptomatic,
Does not require.
What will be the ECG changes in hypokalemia?
ECG changes, UV will be present, then QTC prolongation will be there, flattening of T wave.
The early, most common will be a flattening of T wave. That will be the initial one. Maybe you can get some ectopics. That will be the other reason. So whenever you see this, you have to always think of hypokalemia. That is the one electrolyte that you have to keep in mind in salicylate overdose. Okay.
U wave, which lead it is prominent? Lead V3, V4, anterior chest leads. V2, V3, V4 is the classical area you get U waves. You get everywhere, but it is very prominent there.
So ideally, in a case of salicylate poisoning, we'll have to do a gastric decontamination, because that will help the patient in case of delayed absorbing drugs and all. Then we will have to give activated charcoal. In case of ecospirin and all, delayed absorption will be there. So multi-dose activated charcoal should be given, and sodium bicarbonate should be started. Sodium bicarbonate, the doses 1 to 2 milliequivalents per kg bolus dose should be given. After that, we should give sodium bicarbonate infusion.
When you talk about sodium bicarbonate, it's an antidote here, correct? But what are the precautions you take before giving soda bicarbonate in any patient?
Cardiac monitors should be connected. Hypokalemia.
Hypokalemia should be corrected first. Otherwise, patient can suddenly go to severe range of hypokalemia. One more thing.
Secure the airways.
Airway is correct. One important thing you have to look in this patient, this pulmonary edema, because this patient is already having cardiac failure, CAD, cardiac failure. You have to closely monitor the patient. I am not telling not to give, but when you are giving soda bicarb, so a solution which contain high levels of sodium should be used with caution in cardiac failure.
For all patients, you need to start on soda bicarb.
No, sir. In case of if we want a urinary alkalinization only, we will start soda bicarbonate.
Okay, so what will be the dose of soda bicarb?
Initially 1 to 2 milliequivalents per kg bolus dose will be given, and infusion will be given, and that is 50 to 100 milliequivalents in 1 liter of water of 5% dextrose can be given over 1 to 2 hours.
So again, what are the concentration available of bicarbonate?
50 milliequivalents and 100 milliequivalents.
The percentage, you have 7.5 and you have 8.4. These are the two things that is available. The thing that I want to discuss here, 7.5% will not have 1 ml 1 milliequivalent. If you want to give 1 ml 1 milliequivalent, you have to go for 8.4%. Just maybe a fraction of difference. Maybe a 50 ml of 7.5 will have 42 milliequivalents. The other one, 50 ml will have 8.4 will have 50 milliequivalents. So while calculating, there can be minor differences. We usually calculate by the ml 1 milliequivalent, but there can be minor differences. And what will be the urinary pH target for urinary alkalization?
7.5 to 8.5.
8.5. So that will be again the target. You have to start on 5% dextrose. And what are the issues with bicarbonate? Why you are telling? You said sir has pointed out regarding hypokalemia. What are the other things that can happen when we give bicarbonate?
Carbon dioxide buildup.
Carbon dioxide, that is basically intracellular buildup. Again, it can have an carbon dioxide buildup. Then
Arrhythmogenic.
why it is causing pulmonary edema? Why it causes pulmonary edema? It is a hypertonic saline. So it is a hypertonic saline. When you give that much ml, it will again increase the intravascular volume. So that is why it is causing pulmonary edema. And maybe an inotropy of the heart, it will can also, maybe acidosis can further worsen. It can decrease the inotropy. So that's why we have to use it with caution. Whenever you are using bicarbonate, use it with caution. Okay.
So if we are giving soda bicarbonate, hourly urine pH should be checked and electrolytes should be checked second hourly. Then in this patient, when we are monitoring, we should monitor the electrolytes, and second hourly sugars should be checked, because aspirin is getting metabolized by the liver. So when the liver saturation can occur, and it can even inhibit the gluconeogenesis. So hypoglycemia will be there.
Can you tell what is Ray's syndrome?
Ray's syndrome is usually seen in most commonly in children because of high dose of aspirin. Ray's syndrome will be there.
Especially somebody is having fever, liver injury, mild liver injury. If we give aspirin, it will produce severe liver injury like encephalopathy and all. It's called as Ray's syndrome. Here also you can get elevation of SGOT, SGPT.
Then we should patient will be having hypovolemia.
Okay.
Patient will be deficient in 4 to 6 liters of fluid. So ideally we should start D5 water.
Okay.
10 to 20 ml per kg should be given and followed by infusion to maintain a urine output of 2 to 3 ml per hour.
Okay.
ml per kg per hour. Then we should monitor for hypokalemia, hypocalcemia should be monitored. Then monitor for symptoms. If at all the patient is developing seizures and all, benzodiazepines.
This hypocalcemia is due to alkalosis, respiratory
Alkalosis,
alkalosis,
respiratory
not
alkalosis.
actual hypocalcemia. It is the only shift. It will come back to normal if once you treat the patient.
Patient can develop seizures. In case of seizures, benzodiazepines are indicated.
This liver injury is very common in aspirin toxicity. How to manage that liver injury?
Liver injury, fluids can be given. Then
Any acute liver injury, N-acetylcysteine is
N-acetylcysteine.
the drug of choice now. If you take paracetamol poisoning, hepatitis A, B, everywhere now N-acetylcysteine can be given as a drug of choice. But initially it was given only for paracetamol poisoning. Now we can give everywhere.
Maybe not like the dose that we give for
Correct.
paracetamol toxicity. What we can maybe a 300 mg per hour
So
infusion.
it has
or
got a
an-
liver protective action.
And again, can you just tell me what is the role of salicylate level here? Whether we need to send a salicylate level, we have not.
yes, sir. Salicylate level should be sent. So salicylate level in this patient it was 19.2. But if at all the salicylate level is high, we must plan on further treatment. Like if the salicylate level is more than 100, and if the patient is having features of non-cardiogenic pulmonary edema, or if the patient is having any cerebral edema features, or if the patient is having AKA features, like if the
Intractable
creatinine
acidosis.
is there, we must plan on dialysis.
Okay. So is dialysis better or hemoperfusion better here?
Dialysis is better. Hemoperfusion, charcoal hemoperfusion won't correct this electrolyte abnormalities.
Okay, but for salicylate per
For
se,
salicylate per se,
it's a charcoal
Charcoal
hemoperfusion. Maybe a combination of hemodialysis with hemoperfusion. For salicylate, hemoperfusion is very good, but it will not correct the electrolyte abnormality. So it may be a combination of both. We need to think in this case of patient. So can you tell me what are the other dialysable drugs or toxins?
Other dialysable drugs are barbiturates, lithium, theophylline, isoniazid, sodium valproate, carbamazepine, methanol, ethylene glycol.
Okay. So again, what happened to this patient? Can you just-
This patient, first salicylate level itself was 19.2, which was not in the toxic level. So this patient was monitored, and this patient serial electrolyte monitoring was done, and patient did not develop any symptoms. So even though the initial potassium was only 3.3 and there was no ECG changes, potassium correction was not started, or even sodium bicarbonate was not indicated for this patient. Only fluid corrections were given, but he never went into hypotension. So he was observed in the ward and for later discharge.
Any other gastric protective agents we have to give in aspirin toxicity?
Gastric, there can be a chance of gastritis and gastric perforation.
Ulcer, perforation, everything is common. So you have to prevent that also. You can give sucralfate and you can give pantoprazole infusion or pantoprazole repeated doses. Thank you for good presentation.